Hi, William Hououin here for new villagers and heroes poll discussion. So this time it's all about retention. Let's see what V asked. All about retention. What keeps you logging in into VNH? What do you spend the majority of your time in VNH doing? Have you ever left the VNH for a game-related reason? If so, why? Do you spend more or less time on your characters when they reach level cap? What are your ideas for early, mid, and end game player retention? Let's see what the community has to say about that, and let me tell you, go get a drink because the community have a lot to say about that. So first we have Squishy Lux saying, "What keeps me logging in? Daily calendar rewards. However, what I do in-game for the last couple months is log on, grab my calendar item, and log out. Once capped, I rarely play those characters. The first 75 levels are the most fun." I kind of agree with that. Now we have PD saying, "I log in for a few reasons. I love the community. I'm a mod, so I have an obligation. I really want the game to succeed, so I try to help with that. In essence, I keep logging in because I'm vested in the game and I want to see it grow. If I don't log in, that's one less active player." Very true. Honestly, most of my time is spent looking at my house, not clearing vaults or anything productive, literally just looking at my house. Hey, PD, soon you'll be able to enter your house, so you will be able to look at the couch and the bed and stuff. I do have a quest I need to complete, and I also love helping people with raids, rift, elders, etc. But my assistance is not requested as much as it used to be. The only break I've ever taken was due to my laptop being stolen. It took a couple months to save for a new one. I spend the same amount of time on my toon whether capped or not. I keep trying to play an alt, but I lose interest in that fairly quickly. Player retention ideas. I think early game is fairly good as it is. VNH is not for everyone. That is true for any game. Yes, by the way, I made a video about that. You can look that up on my channel. It's called like, "This game is not for everyone" is the most empty sentence ever. Anyway, the early game will give new players a good idea what they're in for and if they want to continue. For mid-game, I think the main quest line needs to be completed. God, yes. So many players ask about that. Basically, the quest ends around level 30-35. There's nothing to connect that range to Traven to Pyron. We need a quest line that will give some cohesion to connect these. Endgame. There's only so much you can do. People tend to get bored after cap. I think we do a pretty good job of retention, even if players don't do much after cap, and there are things to do, even zones, raids, etc. They do log in to talk to friends and such at least periodically. And we always get an influx of returning players when there's an update. Sorry for the extreme wall of text. Oh my god, PD, the extreme wall of text. It was like 2 screenshots. Oh man, I mean, sometime Madfish is like 6, 7, 8 screenshots. It's there. Oh my god, there's nothing extreme about that. Like, yeah. But yeah, I'm kind of kidding. I'm messing with you. Thanks for replying. I pretty much agree with a bunch of that. I really want the Black Thrush story quest to be completed. There's definitely a gap, and it's kind of annoying. Next we have Caridwin. I'm so sorry. All about retention. What keeps you logging in into VNH? I have characters not finished. And friends. What do you spend the majority of your time in V&H doing? Killing things because things must die. Very true. Have you ever left the V&H for a game-related reason? If so, why? Are mean people game-related? Kind of. It's about the community and what the community itself is kind of regulating on what is okay and not. I've played a few games and some games are incredibly vile in their interaction between players. V&H is pretty nice, but I don't doubt that you might have had bad experiences. It's the internet after all. But I mean, are mean people game related? I mean, probably, yeah, probably. Anyway, do you spend more or less time on your characters when they level cap? Less, way less. What are your ideas for early, mid, and game player retention? Early, a new class of volunteer mod types called Help, with perhaps green text. Dedicated tunes in a guild called New Player Help, who hang in Summer's Hollow and help. One-on-one, group hunt, give away things they can make. A personal touch to the crafting, gathering starter quests, which people seem to do without taking note to the importance of some items. Yeah, I always have some potatoes on me. People tend to ask for 3 of them. Mid-game. For the love of God, do something with that whole level-locked bottleneck. A lot of people quit there or give up on that tune. Perhaps offer another boost set like the new player boost. Let it come with level-specific XP boost, like only works for level 75 to 85. Set it cheap so it sells. Endgame. This is the hard one. Pop-up quest activated by a random kill. Offer prizes, a countdown that encourages leveling more tunes, or look pretty like wings. Wings. And did I mention wings? Wings. Aishan coming in with what keeps you logging into V&H? Friends and nostalgia. Also new updates, but mainly good memories. What do you spend the majority of your time in V&H doing? Gardening, ranching. I'm level 95, don't judge. I don't judge, I'm level 95 too. Have you ever left V&H for a game-related reason? If so, why? Technically, yes. There were times when the game got glitchy and I couldn't log in. It kept getting stuck on loading page or initializing page, so I didn't play the game for a week or so. Then, with a weekly reboot or something, it got fixed. Do you spend more or less time on your characters when they level cap? I spend most of my time on my capped tune, but that's because I play less and mostly play on my main level 95 tune. What are your ideas for early, mid, and game player retention? I'm gonna be blunt and harsh, so bear with me. I'm going to answer this in 3 separate parts. Early. Please fix the starter zone problems. Man, they redid the starter zone so many times. I don't know if let's continue reading. The Athos islands have faults and need fixing. Occasionally, people complain they cannot do the entrails quest. The quest giver doesn't accept the 4-bore entrails. Really? Never got this issue. I don't doubt it's happening. Just I wasn't aware of that. I sure hope they do bug report or do a forum post or something. The quest marker disappears sometimes and doesn't point towards Vigo. A lot of people ask how to get a mount. Is the only way to get a mount through shop. This can easily be fixed by adding this one line in brackets in the quest horse for heroism. Complete the other purple main quest line to receive your very own horse. Yeah, Yeah, that's one good idea. So people will know they will get a mount after that quest line. Or add an NPC near the Hordes guy that says something on the lines of, perhaps if you can complete all the missions and solve the mystery, you'll get horse out of it. Your very own mount. I can't stress this enough, but every little small problem a player faces in the beginning of the game can make them stop playing entirely. Even unanswered question can lead to that. The starter experience is great, but can still be enhanced further. Well, yeah, I agree that every little problem. We live in an era of so many games. We have so many games available to us that, if something doesn't work the way we want, we can just quit and take another one. Free-to-play MMORPGs are legion at this point. So, yeah, we need to remove all the what's the word? Is hurdles a word? Anyway, all the bad stuff needs to be as fixed as it can be. I'm not making any sense. Look, I'm starting my vacation and add some stuff for supper and anyway. Mid, please add the missing story. Yes, honestly, this is just harsh on the player. The player is told guided through and through till level 35, end of main quest, and then boom. All of a sudden the quest disappears, with literally no one telling the player where to go and how to go. This is horrible. Every player feels lost at this point, and while yes, players ask what to do next, etc., this is so wrong. The game shouldn't just abandon the player who was diligently following the questline. I remember feeling so lost and confused, journeying through different zones for XP, post the main questline stopping. Yes, I was guided by my friends, but what about people who talk less, have less friends? No NPC explains the medallion system or why it's important. And post the Traven, the only way to tell why and how to get to Saphira's Lament is through other players. The only hint the game gives, and to its credit, is the Guild of Guilds NPCs. They tell you where to go based on levels, and that's nice. But we need specific NPCs to tell us to go to Lament after Traven. I remember being quite lost myself too, back in the days. In games, the end of questlines signifies either of these things. The questline is complete, nothing else to do your own thing forever, aka open world. Albion Online does this. The game is not finished, a lot of unfinished game does this. From this point on, the game is open world, tutorial is over. Albion Online and other sandbox MMOs do this. But VNH has a rich 10 plus years history and doesn't fall under any of those three categories, so why? The main reason why players leave in levels 35 to 50 is lack of direction and or medallion grind. Endgame. I'll be honest and blunt and harsh. You can't. You genuinely can't. There is genuinely nothing you can do to keep a player coming back. A lot of devs and game studios ask this one question and the answer is always you can't. Yes, technically you can by adding more content, but that's no guarantee to keep players around. How, you may ask? Allow me to elaborate. Just before I go to the next screenshot, the producer of Final Fantasy XIV is even more blunt than Ishan here, because he's telling his own player base, come for the content, do the thing in the patch, have fun. When you get bored, well, go play something else and come back to the next patch. I think he's acknowledging that you can't force people to play the same game forever. Some people do, but there's little you can do to make that happen, I think. But let's see how Ishan elaborate. On average, if a map, zone, anything new in game takes 6 months of development, a player can probably complete it in, say, a few weeks. So, months of developing time completed in weeks and sometimes days. How long did raids took to make? I don't know, but some player completed all in 3 days, some in 3 weeks, and some took longer. The development to completing time is always skewed against the devs, always. I'm not saying that to deter devs of any game to stop making more content, but I am saying this so devs stop thinking that's what keeps what man so sorry, I'm getting lost here. Stop thinking that's what'll keep players around. Yeah, that's kind of the difference between a theme park and a sandbox MMO, because in theme park you do the activities, but doing them takes quite a bit less time than making them. So sandbox MMO works with, we created a sandbox for you, go create your own content, do stuff. Now there's definitely a middle here. I think, and I've been saying this for a very long time, devs should, I mean, it's easier said than done, I get it, but the more agency the player base will have, the more content will be created. I'm explaining this very poorly. That's why I script most of my videos. Imagine if there was a tool in VNH to create your own raid or dungeon. How many dungeons do you think would be there? Think of Mad Fish. How many dungeons would Mad Fish have made by this point? You know, yeah. We need to be able to create content for the game, I think, for player retention. Anyway, let's see. It will, I promise it will, for a few extra weeks, tops. If a player wants to leave a game, they will, there's no stopping them, that's a given. But people usually think if more content is added, the max level players will stick around and lower level players, new players, will have more to do. But the reality is the development time put into anything isn't worth the few short hours, weeks of new content for the player. That new content won't keep them. It could engage them for a bit, but won't keep them. That's why whenever new raid season comes, a lot of players come back, complete the raids in a few weeks and go off again. But something like goals and repeatable rewards can keep players. That's why even zones are a great attraction. Adding a new skinned old model can keep the players grinding in the game even zone for hours on end. Think about it. How long will it take to reskin a horse to a pink floral pattern on its torso? I don't know, I'm no dev, but I know this, the hours and weeks of player grinding to get that cool looking horse is worth the development time. This in no way is me saying don't make the game, etc. This is me giving an observation, that's all. But yeah, well, I kind of agree that making a reskin of a mount is quite a bit shorter and gives players something to grind for, but then again, how many hours can somebody put in an even zone weeks after weeks to get a pink horse? Maybe more than I think, maybe, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. Another thing, maxed out players who still play don't play still because of something inherently about the game. They play because of things related coming out of the game. Allow me to elaborate again. CPD, that's an extreme wall of text. Most maxed out players play for even zone, great dev team, nostalgia, friends they made just because they were bored. These things are all related to the game, but most are not the game itself. If devs can make more of this, then the game will continue on living forever. That's why player made event committee made events are also good. They are also something that could theoretically keep a player for a longer time. Alright, another suggestion would be this. Make more eternal things to do. Now what the hell do I mean by that? Eternal things to do are those things a player can do unlimited times without it being boring. Also, well, raids. They keep getting stronger, tougher with higher ranks, so they're an example. Something like getting new mounts, toys, pets, outfits is something players do all even zones. And while it can get boring, it's worth keeping players. The new housing will do the same, as it will allow players to decorate and redecorate their houses, etc., so they'll continue to change things around. Also, I genuinely believe the game will be better if the focus stops being add more stuff and becomes fix whatever current issues are, because the game isn't perfect. I love it, I really do, and that's why I'm gonna be blunt and harsh about it all, because these games deserve recognition, but it won't be getting that with the current limitations and if its existing problems aren't fixed. We all know there are problems, no sugarcoating, guys. Thanks for reading. Then Ishan pinged me a say, when you make the poll video, don't forget to add this part to my super long comment, and as promised by my thumbs up emote, I did it. Now next we have some. What keeps you logging into VNH? Nothing right now, but normally because of friends in the game and calendar, and goals making me feel a little obligated to log in. Recently I've started playing a different game and I'm really hooked on it. So I don't know, awkward. Yeah, we all play some other games. I mean, maybe not all, but I know I do. I've been playing quite a bit of single-player games lately. It's great stuff too. What do you spend the majority of your time in VNH doing? Raids. Raiding on many of my low-level alts. More specifically, it provides essentially the only challenge in the game, and I want to be challenged when I'm playing games. It's fun, I like to learn and grow in literally everything I do. Well, if you like challenge, may I suggest you to go look at the new redesigned Rift. It seems people are having quite a bit of a hard time in it. Have you ever left VNH for a game-related reason? If so, why? Yes. Friends not playing the game much anymore and realizing it doesn't actually matter if I have 5 toon at max or just my current one, so I shouldn't stress about leveling them. Sorry. Because I want them at max so I can have fun with them build, experimenting, but what fun is the grind up to it? Do you spend more or less time on your characters when they reach level cap? Definitely less, though I still play maxed often for events helping people gardening. What are your ideas for early, mid, and game player retention? Fill in story gaps. Yeah, that's the overall consensus here. The ride into Traven is absolutely whack. Most people have no idea what to do, and making the story feel more interactive with respawn with option A or B, and it doesn't change anything, but you have the choice and randomized stuff in the world. All that would boost the quality a lot and provide retention, as it makes the game less repetitive and less confusing. Now we have Arcaneum saying, what keeps you logging into VNH? I don't. Except once every 2 weeks to keep my houses. Can't lose the good spots. What do you spend the majority of your time in VNH doing? I used to do raids, mostly. Have you ever left VNH for a game-related reason? If so, why? Yeah, it gets boring. I've been playing for a whopping 8 years, and while the game has definitely changed, there was only one major update being reborn. I guess Fury of the Stone Lord and the Blight updates are technically major too, story-wise. Do you spend more or less time on your characters when they reach level cap? I only play on my capped tunes, and every now and then I level up my alts a bit. What are your ideas for early, mid, and game player retention? Content? There is no content between level 30-ish to 55, and after that the journey to Blight just takes too long, and it's so very grindy, just because there is not enough content to get you to cap. You have to redo stuff. Then Blight itself being literally the shortest arc of the game while being the grindiest and most annoyingly boring. The game lacks content, I know that the devs know that, but instead they choose to bring other stuff into the game, just adding to the pile without fixing what's already there. Kind of what Ishan said a bit earlier. We have not had a single new event zone they renamed the Spooky Town since I started playing. They just add new outfits or new boss or something, which might sound exciting at first, but you discover it's just another texture that does something you have already seen in the game at least 2,000-3,000 times. We lack content. Other than content, we need something to keep old players or players that are already capped playing. The quest after you finish Blight is just another extremely boring grindy Blight quest. Very exciting, right? I know. Yeah, well, as Ishan said, content is fine and all, but it takes forever to develop and people burned through it in like a week. I think, once again, is more player agency, more player-created content. It comes with its flaws too, but I think VNH would benefit a lot from that. Wolf Runner saying, what keeps you logging into VNH? The friends I have made through my guilds that I am a part of. I do also appreciate the more laid-back atmosphere of the game, very true. I've played others where everyone is all about being the fastest to top level and then raid. For me it's about spending time with friends I've made and that we are able to play together. I've read somewhere quite a long time ago that a good MMO is not a game to play, it's a place to go. And I think what you're saying there is pretty much on point. What do you spend the majority of your time in VNH doing? Hi, my name is Wolf and I am an alt-aholic. I spend the majority of my time leveling up whichever tune I feel like playing. Occasionally, I will gather or process my gathered items, but not often. That usually only happens when I am extra tired from work, want to talk to friends and do something mindless, hence why I don't have a crafting spec. I just don't do that very often because it's boring. Have you ever left VNH for a game-related reason? If so, why? Not yet, nothing has made me want to leave. Again, it's the people who keep me coming back. Do you spend more or less time on your characters when they reach level cap? I don't have a tune that is 95 yet. Once I reach level cap, I will likely not play that character as much. I will probably only pull it out to help lower levels kill elders or something like that. I don't get into the whole I have to have the best armor, weapon, mount or whatever it is some people strive for. There is nothing wrong with doing that, but it is not really my thing. I'm more about the journey. What are your ideas for early mid-end game player retention? I'm not sure about this part. Again, for me, it is about the people, the friends I've made, and the community as a whole. I have not been witness to a lot of the negative stuff in VNH that you see in some MMOs. For the most part, the community here is helpful to new players and friendly. I do think not having PvP has kept a lot of that hyper competitive people out, and that is a good thing. It always seems the negativity follows along with them. I personally hate PvP and will take a PvE any day over that. Yeah, I feel kind of the same, and there's like 80% of MMOs that have PvP, so even if VNH doesn't have that, I think it's fine. It's kind of the same when people ask for easy mode in Dark Souls, and it's like, well, I mean, 99% of the games that exist have an easy mode, so I mean, there's a lot of choices for you, and you can leave Dark Souls to people who want to hate themselves for a while. I hate myself too. As for keeping folks around, there does have to be some updates to zones or events, and even raids, just to keep things interesting. I will say this, the first time I went into Reef Traven Depth, I had not one freaking clue what I was doing or why. I didn't know what the meds were for or why I should collect them. Slowly I figured it out on my own, but for a long time I had no clue what I should do. The other thing is the dumb Pyron grind for meds just to get into a new zone. I don't like it at all, and that could be why people around mid-level leave the game. I think those medallions were put there back in the days when there was not a lot of content after that, but now it's kind of useless. It's probably the biggest reason why I haven't pushed Attune to 95 yet. I also get to hear the horror stories of the awful Blight grind, which doesn't make me want to get there either. I'm not sure what to do about that, but I will leave that kind of things to the devs to figure out. Like I have said several times, I came for the game, but I have stayed for the people. Now we have Cosmic Kitty saying, what keeps you logging into VNH? Mostly the community, I think. I started during the Christmas Even Zone, and a bunch of the 95 helped me understand what the hell I was doing and gave me eggs and ham for quests. Everyone was so nice and I stuck around. Also raids and building my tune. What do you spend the majority of your time in VNH doing? Real game stuff, mostly getting bounties and Blight right now, but overall mostly chatting in guild world chat. Have you ever left VNH for a game-related reason? If so, why? Nope. Do you spend more or less time on your characters when they reach level cap? I'm level 93.5. It's like when very young kids, you ask how old they are and they say, "Oh, I'm 4.5 years old." I'm just messing with you, Cosmic Kitty, but I find it funny. I'll let you know when I get there. I can't imagine going through Pyron a second time, though. What are your ideas for early, mid, and gameplay retention? I feel like level 75 to 85 is when people disappear. The grind between Pyron and Blight is so long and boring. Most of the time there's nothing to do. Also, I see a lot of people quit on Rebirth. I haven't done Bevan since the XP changes, but that whole area needs more dailies, bounties, XP, just something to do. Maybe something more like Fungal is for Pyron. Some crafting dailies would be nice as well, those start pretty suddenly in the 80s, and I hadn't been leveling my gathering crafting much till then. I didn't know I really needed to. Earlier quests would get your setup better for the later ones. Now we have Jibikik saying, what keeps you logging into VNH? Bikik, yeah, of course. What do you spend the majority of your time in VNH doing? Bikiking, yeah, you're doing a lot of that. Have you ever left VNH for a game-related reason? If so, why? No extended leaves, just play less. You forgot to say Bikik there. Do you spend more or less time on your characters when they reach level cap? About same-ish. What are your ideas for early, mid, and game player retention? Everyone deserves more Bikik. Or not. Uza Dark Stars saying, what keeps you logging into VNH? The guild, raids, village building. What do you spend the majority of your time in VNH doing? Ranching, gardening, raiding, and village building. Have you ever left VNH for a game-related reason? If so, why? Never missed a day since I started playing. Now I'm curious of since when you're playing. Do you spend more or less time on your characters when they reach level cap? Never reached combat level cap on any character. I still garden and ranch on all characters despite hitting cap on those skills. I only gather on my main, which is level capped on all gathering, to get naturals for plot restock for my alts. I only craft on my main, which is level capped on all crafting, when my alts do not have the level requirements, such as when they're crafting pies for the village vault. What are your ideas for early, mid, and game player retention? Early. Don't throw the super powerful only in the cash shop limited time only gear ad at new players when that gear will be obsolete in less than an hour of gameplay. Mid, the questing kept me engaged for quite a while but came to an abrupt end around levels 30-35. I forget the exact number. Time gating medallions was somewhat annoying. And not there yet. Now we have Layla Little Nymph saying, what keeps you logging into VNH? The daily calendar and the Ardent Society chest, if you have membership, are good motivators, along with the hassle of losing my house. As an in-game moderator, I feel a certain responsibility to be online on a regular basis, but that's my way of contributing to a game I would like to see continue. On a purely personal level, I came here with friends and have made more during the time I have been here. I enjoy the interaction. My son came here to get some stuff. What do you spend the majority of your time in VNH doing? I have an unusually large number of characters that cover every subclass in the game. They tend to keep me busy. Have you ever left VNH for a game-related reason? If so, why? I took a short break from the game when I hit the depth. VNH was a much different game 8 or 9 years back and came across as a casual and somewhat simplistic game. The difference is not as jarring as it once was. When you hit the depth, the game shifts in a fundamental way. I came back and struggled through it and then repeated that process with the drum, oh god, and others. Some people like puzzle-type zones. Me, I'm not really a fan, but I've gotten used to them over time and have even come to enjoy certain limited aspects of them. Do you spend more or less time on your characters when they reach level cap? Less, because all of the extended content that's been added to the game is combat-oriented. I don't care how many raids and rift-like zones you add to the game. Once you have explored them, they begin to blur together. When they add something that's actually new and different, my activity will be reflective of those changes. Housing is a good start. Let's hope that's what it turns out to be. A start. What are your ideas for early, mid, and game player retention? In keeping with what I just posted above, the game desperately needs a quality side content that fits the theme of the game but differs from the activity currently available. Housing, minigames, a trading card game, the possibilities are as endless as your imagination. When you give me a greater choice of things to do in the game, you multiply my reasons for returning to it time and time again. If you are going to give us more combat-oriented materials, how about returning Black Fury Gorge, the way it used to be? The repeatable quests there were very useful. It was a great place to run bounties, and I liked the fact that you could do a lot or do a little each time you went. No ladder, no timers, no tiers, just fun. It was a unique zone, and there is nothing currently in the game that mirrors it. I would like to see some long-running, story-based quests like Daggertooth and Ultraunikia. Oh man, I can't. Alright, just read it. Reintroduced to the game. They were like short stories within the larger storyline of the game. They made for a nice diversion and were a great vehicle for expanding on the game lore. Speaking of storyline, the main storyline needs to be continued beyond its current endpoint. The new zones that have their own storylines needs to be folded into the existing story in some manner. As it is, playing V&H is like picking up a book and putting it down at the halfway point to start reading another one. Very, very well said. Now we have Matt Fish. What keeps you logging into V&H? In a word, community. If I'm roaming alone all the time, then there are a million other games I can play that are, to be blunt, much better. I play because I like the atmosphere here and the people are generally pleasant to be around. Take that community away and I leave. Yeah, I mean, it's the case for many MMOs. Many single-player games have better combat, many single-player games have better stories, graphics, name it. What makes an online game fun is, well, the online part of it. What do you spend the majority of your time in V&H doing? Doing whatever my guild is doing at the time. When I'm not doing that, I might work on an alt or resupply my main or gnome around a bit. Have you ever left V&H for a game-related reason? If so, why? Game-related? No. I left before because I couldn't find the community. Part of it was my anti-social nature. Part of it was simply that there was no contact with other people at the time. Do you spend more or less time on your characters who are at level cap? The only time where this is less is when I decided to go all out on the Blight Zone and finish the entire quest line in less than a month. Outside of the freak accident, I will never do again. It is about the same. What are your ideas for early, mid, and game player retention? There is not enough time in the day for me to answer this question fully. Let's try to give an ever so brief summary of whatever comes to my head in the moment. Early, see general section below. Mid, connect the main quest together. Add side content. No ladder crap, I want an actual quest line with lore and something that really grabs my attention. Late, get rid of the blight zones. Okay, that isn't very useful information. Why do I feel that way? The short version is that the entire region feels rushed and full of absolutely meaningless mind-numbing grind. Yeah, oh man, I don't know. Yeah, mind-numbing grind, we high five. I get what you mean. But I like how those zones looked, to be honest, and the lore was pretty good, but it was given on such a long time because of the meaningless, mind-numbing grind. Take that zone and condense it for it to be able to be done in like 2 weeks, and I think there's great stuff in Blight. I mean, in my opinion at least. I read all of the quest dialogue and still have no idea what is really going on with that region. It's true, it's a bit convoluted. Where is Queen Zoria and what does she have to do with anything? What happened to that Lumineer that got the entire group in such a frenzy to find him? Why are we finding those 4 artifacts and how did they open to way to the 95 elders? What is with the sudden reappearance of the coterie of gatherers for the salty sanity quest? And the dailies, I literally can't even. What is the point of half of those quests? Filler? I mean, yeah, probably. I feel like far too much effort was put into making it last forever and not enough effort, feels like zero effort, was put into making it enjoyable. It's been a while since I've done the Blight quests. I cannot answer your question about the lore, it's been too long. But I remember back in the days, people were asking for repeatable content. That was a huge demand from the community. We want repeatable content, and so the zone was developed. I think I'm not speaking in format author. I'm just giving you my take on it. I feel it was developed with that mindset of putting in as much repeatable content as possible, because this is what was asked back in those times. I would need to go back, read some old forum posts, but I won't do that. There's still quite a bit of those replies to read. General. I feel like one thing that can really help with retention is always having something to do. I believe Path of Exile does an amazing job in this. They have so much optional content, you could probably make several full games out of them. And each expansion they integrate the most recent new content into the entirety of the game itself. Imagine for a moment that previous expansions to VNH actually added something to the entire game. Here are some examples of what that might look like. Black Thrush. Once per day, you could encounter a Black Thrush invasion, which would be part of a small side quest you could do. Completing the side quest would allow you to modify the encounters in various ways, netting you more and more rewards for completing future encounters. Pyron. All around the world there is a random chance that a trash mob will be replaced by a group resembling the ones you see in the Pyron region. Black Fury Gorge is also retained as a repeatable zone with some context explaining that while Lord Pyrrhus is dead, his forces are still storming Arden City. The Lumineers. Each member of the Lumineers will give you a quest to go to a random region and complete some task for them. I'm sure Sarah can come up with some way to make them all related somehow. I believe too. Blight. A random zone is mysteriously tainted by the blight. Separate instance, of course. The player must go to that zone and discover how to purge the blight from the zone. This is pretty interesting. All of those are pretty interesting, actually. Raids. There are strange whispers that Malok is returning. The player must go investigate these whispers to see if there is any merit to them. All of these could potentially be repeatable content. Sure, you will eventually finish all of them, but how many people would actually do all of it? Very few. I'm sure you would, though. There is a strong disconnect between the expectation of players in the main questline and the expectation of players everywhere else. I will give the short version, thank God. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding, by the way. I'm doing this on my own volition. The main quest is super casual friendly and everything else is not so much. There isn't an easy solution to this. Anytime you create content for a more hardcore group, the non-hardcore group will complain. When you inevitably nerf that content, the hardcore group will complain, and it seems like you ignore them at that point. To be completely honest, the fault for that cycle lies on the devs first and the players second. The devs are saying, let's create something difficult, but give in to make something everyone can do. Accept the fact that whichever one you do, Someone is going to be angry at you. Instead of giving in so easily, try to design that difficult content so that those who don't like difficult content will be less inclined to want to do that content. In short, find something that hardcore player likes that a non-hardcore player couldn't care less about, or get as close as you can. The players aren't without fault, however. Players simply do not understand that the world doesn't revolve around them. You don't have to thoroughly enjoy 100% of everything in a game to enjoy the game. You simply have to enjoy some part of it, be it the gathering and crafting, the combat, the community, or something else entirely. I don't like gathering. It is boring as hell to me. But I absolutely love VNH for its community and some of the interesting ideas they come up with. I think that is good enough. Some things simply aren't explained very well. A short list includes stats, gear, stats, augmentation, your house, guilds, chat, gathering, crafting, selecting, abilities, mail, the auction house, and even the store. So yes, some things may be understatement of 2022. If you want people to understand how things work, you need to explain these things as the player runs through the game, and put them into situations where they can make use of these things. Hey Matt, have you seen the Josh Strife's tutorial video? I sure did. I strongly believe that when a player hits level 30 and is ready for the first rebirth, they should have a good understanding of how all of the essential things works. More complicated things can be explained later on. Some of the explanations could even be part of the rebirthing process. Then he's tagging me saying lots of giant text blocks for that last question, lol, but I'm done. Now we have Fergus saying, all about retention. Background. I first started playing MMOs with the launch of Asheron's Call in 1999 and played that until it was shut down. Had multiple characters at cap. Same with City of Heroes Villains. Played that until shut down. Played WoW off and on for a number of years, with a couple characters reaching the level caps at whatever that was at that particular time. Have played another handful of MMOs for various periods of time, such as Middle-earth Online and Neverwinter for a year or two at a time. What keeps you logging into VNH? Just before I'm reading that, I like that they gave us their background story with MMOs. I think we should all do that at some point, a poll like your MMO career or something like that. And we could it would be called all about your MMO's history or your... I'm sure you can come up with something. It would be interesting just to know where do the player base comes from. Anyway, what keeps you logging into VNH? Daily calendar rewards, Ardent Society and cult boxes, tending crops critters, gathering to complete the village projects. What do you spend the majority of your time in VNH doing? Gathering materials to complete village project. Have you ever left VNH for a game-related reason? Nope, only been playing for a bit over 8 months. Do you spend more or less time on your characters when they reach level cap? Highest character is a level 70 fire wizard, but not really looking forward to reaching level cap with him. Traven Shadow-Fated Tyrant have almost completely sucked the fun out of playing him. I never want to see the words medallion or key again. Oh man, I'm so sorry because you will. I hate gated content and I really hate mandatory grouping to get through gated content. I have a lot more fun running new characters up to the 30-40 range, even if I'm just doing the original storyline over again. What are your ideas for early mid-end game player retention? Early. Reduce the pain of traveling around. As soon as the initial quest sends the character out to other zones, they should be given a horse to travel with. Let it be the same spec as the Grey Horse reward from a horse for heroism, and upgrade that horse to midway between the current Grey Horse and a premium mount. Fell into the mayorship of our little village, and because of this I follow the comings and going of new characters in our village. Our population bounces up and down but tends to hover around the low to mid 30s. Every week we get a half dozen or so new players characters, and every week a half dozen existing ones drop off from inactivity. They typically show up at level 3 to 7, and somewhere in the mid to late teens they just fade away and are gone. Mid. Pick up the dropped storyline and continue it. Make use of all the zones that sit out there ignored. And no answer. Now we have Sir Babo saying, "My primary reason for logging in is due to the fact I am a guild leader. Just make sure any requests are fulfilled and if someone needs an elder. I then check my gardens and ranching and then off-leveling an alt. The majority of my time is usually leveling an alt and just making sure any request in guild chat can be met. I've played for over 2 years in a leadership position, so I do know each day is different. I used to do level 95 each night with my own open run, but lately that has stopped due to loss of interest on myself and others." My voice is kind of dying here. No, I have not, but there has been some times that I came close to due to a few reasons. I feel you can spend more time on a maxed tune in certain situations, like raids and even zone, but the fact is at endgame it's pretty much the end. The endgame content is like every game, either power your gear up to be the best DPS, healer or tank you can be, stick with the guild you have, or just simply quit playing altogether. A lot of endgamers have stopped since it's pretty much the end, unless you're like me that doesn't mind doing even zone or raids, but it's getting repetitive in those two areas, so I can see less time on a max tune. This is a very interesting subject that, in all honesty, should have been addressed a couple of years ago when the game was at its peak. The game is titled the world's largest cross-platform MMORPG, join hundreds of thousands of players with free and cross-platform capabilities from a small indie development team. The definition of MMORPG is massively multiplayer online role-playing game, which is a combination of role-playing and interacting online with people. Now, to me, a role-playing game is where you can act in a way that you create your own experience fulfilling a role that game's genre can offer. Example would be a warrior acting as a medievalist mindset of a knight of noble deeds, or a rebel knight acting cold-hearted and rebellious. You can act out these mindsets and be considered normal due to the fact the game's genre is promoting MMORPG. Now, if the game's mission statement is this genre, then I would, as an individual, question what promotes this. Community is the number one answer. However, if I act in a roleplay of a fire wizard with a hot-head mentality and fulfilling the role-play genre, would I be labeled as a problem? Most likely yes. Example would be the Orc Guild, good guild leader we have lost in the game who helped out so much for his guild and other guilds too. In US3 acting like orcs, trolls in chat, but was told to stop, so he left the game. When a game gives a mission statement, it is meant to be what the game's genre and what type of customer it would like to have play the game in pursuit of making revenue. The game is free with freely choices, but in the end you do need to pay for luxury or quality of your life to make the game better for yourself. Normal. When I joined over 2 years ago, the game, in my opinion, was at its peak, and while it was fun and interacting with community active, there were many mods, devs, fun activities with a lot of people playing and chatting away. We had guild in cooperative agreements and a lot of I can't. That were acceptable with new players that were staying in the game and players were retained. Now, where did it go wrong a year and a half ago? Big question. And the answers aren't as simple as you believe it to be. I'm sure the lockdowns and people going back to work is the number one answer people would say, and could be some truth to it. However, you can go to work and pick up the game anytime if you really liked the game. Myself, when I went back to work, I have had a roller coaster in this game since, and being a guild leader, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly that the game offers. That's behind closed door, that in truth people have freely giving opinions on why they are living to me. From the conversations I've had with players, leaving it comes to drama, isolation, toxicity, boredom, ghosting, aspirations, life relationships, and cliques. Remember, we have Discord to also interactive with, and we also have the game to interactive with, but the difference is one has game terms of service and the other is free from the terms of service. Speaking of forums, we are allowed to go there and speak an opinion of an opportunity to improve the game or to see if the developers would like feedback. I can understand that some ideas are unfortunately complex with coding new boundaries beyond the capabilities of the game, and then for a developer to research their time to see if it's possible. It's amazing how a game has run for 10 years, not being disrespectful here, but then anything is possible if a person believes. However, any game you can say has issues with retention, but it's not a player's or other players' choice to figure it out. It comes to stats data leading to facts on why that if the developers choose to look into. I can give suggestions, but it's widely considered with facts player leave at all levels of the game due to numerous reasons from my conversations. I can safely say that I've had crown and no crown buyers give me feedback to why they are leaving, and the top 3 reasons are repetitive content in combating update, medallion grinding, rebirthing 30 to 90, and toxic forums and Discord drama behind the scenes, lumping these two together since they can go hand in hand. So I would say if that's what improvements I think would help with retention, then I will leave it at that since others have weighted in on other suggestions too. Man, my voice is dying. Sorry, this is something I'm responding to Mattfish. Respectfully, I think new content needs to be separated from endgamers and gamers of other levels, and if there is a mix, just make it fair. That way you have the endgame toughness and then you have the community aspects that maybe can achieve to that level. I don't think people would be able to adjust at different levels since gear is a huge primary reason to why people can compete versus a max tune. Since the game doesn't allow the freedom to freely build gear up, one cannot assume they are fully built up. So my separation idea is something that if we say only a certain endgamers of 95s can do this and then the others are only allowed to do this might help, since in fairness people over time. That's my thoughts. Now we have JJ Gadget saying, 11 plus years of being in the game. I log in because I got OCD. Rest is irrelevant because of my OCD. I play at least 5 main characters and I got 3 storage characters in gathering OCD. So please remove plenties. I have left the game at least 3 times for more than 6 months, mostly due to real life reason. Always gotten back and fallen into my OCD. No idea. Keyword was OCD. And then we have Kaya Kitty Feathers saying, what keeps you logging into VNH? Community. What do you spend the majority of your time in VNH doing? Socializing with in-game friends, lately leveling my non-cap tunes. Have you ever left the VNH? Why the VNH? I've been avoiding this since a while and then I fell right into it. Have you ever left VNH for a game-related reason? If so, why? Not the game itself, but players with nasty attitudes makes me tempted to at least leave a server. Do you spend more or less time on your characters when they reach level cap? It varies. Lately I have been trying to level alts that are not cap. What are your ideas for early, mid, and game player retention? Early. Seems to be okay, but a new player mentoring program might retain a few more than currently. Mid. Finishing the main quest from where it leaves off to where it picks up again might help a whole lot, or even some direction like perhaps a side quest that starts just outside the entrance to Reefs to retrieve or give something to an NPC or to get a small reward, socket perhaps, for showing the NPC the Traven Master Key or showing them the collection of the different medals or add a piece of dialogue that directs players to Reefs to continue. Hi. About all that can retain high-level players is repeatable content or additional content. Also, I think when Elder Levels gave crowns, it retained more players because they were getting crowns, a highly desired commodity. If perhaps there was something equivalent in value in the player eyes, added to the endgame like trophy wardrobe, items, or mounts, only player with elder levels could get, whether it's earned or they can purchase it for gold, it might also add to the capped player retention. And with this, we are done. So, yeah, this is it. We're done. Thanks for watching, and have a nice rest of your day, or good night, or if you fell asleep during that, well, I'll leave you with a buzzing TV sound.